My friend Kate Bowler has a wildly successful podcast called Everything Happens. And God bless her. Her first guest on that podcast when it started years ago was me. And I got the date wrong. So she was like, I'm going to do this podcast, and she has a whole team and they're all ready, and it's like crickets. And I just didn't show up to the studio because I got the date wrong. So just the fact that you showed up for this and you got the date right, I feel like is more mercy than I deserve. Anyway, thank you, Kate.
No, that's so funny you said that. I didn't notice that part. I just remembered the part where I was so nervous. I was so nervous. But one of the things you said at the very beginning is something I still repeat, I swear to you, like every week, which is that sometimes we're all in the same boat, and sometimes we will have to be at the oar, and sometimes we will have to be willing to be carried. And that insight have became like a foundational insight in my life. So look at you, just building the boat for me.
Oh, okay. I'm so excited to talk to you because we've been friends a long time, and I love you so much. And I feel like each of these these conversations I've done have been they've all been a version of everything's horrible and we're all doomed, and the robots are taking over, and um the news cycle is suffocating me, and everything's awful. And yet,
Yes.
and then people fill in the and yet. Like, I feel like that's been kind of the format is I need my friends to fill in the and yet for me right now. I'm not great at it in this moment in my life. And so I'm gonna say yes. We acknowledge, but do not name every single atrocity happening, including the death of our very beloved Dolly Parton. And yet,
And yet,
and
yeah.
so
And yet vocabulary is like it's like core Nadia, because it's like I remember the first time I got to think about this in public was why Christian, and yet still be Christian, and yet have a language for faith. But I think this last bit, the and yet that became really clear to me is unless you know the depths to which life can take you, unless you really can feel the the magnitude of the low, there's this whole other side that's actually really hard. That's really hard spiritually to understand. And like joy is a really funny way into figuring out that you probably actually won't be able to experience the highs of joy if you don't experience the lows of being a person. Because very strangely, to really feel just how grateful and wondrous and absurd it is to be alive, you have to feel at risk. You have to feel the contingency of your life. And it's so funny. You said something recently, Nadia, and immediately came to me this one part in the most bummer poem that I'm obsessed with. I'm sure it's a poem we both know. It's the Jack Gilbert's A Brief for the Defense, where he catalogs all the horrible things in the world. I mean, it starts with sorrow everywhere, slaughter everywhere, and then he's pretty specific. but here was your argument. He goes, we must risk delight. We can do without pleasure, but not delight, not enjoyment. We must have the stubbornness to accept our gladness in the ruthless furnace of this world. To make injustice the only measure of our attention is to praise the devil. If the locomotive of the Lord runs us down, we should give thanks that the end had magnitude. We must admit there will be music despite everything. And it's the magnitude that I thought that's exactly what you gave me the image of, is like, if we don't know the even so, the and yet, it's really hard for us to feel also just how spectacular the beautiful thing is.
I think it's also true of communities because at House for All Sinners and Saints, that community was really willing to hold suffering, really willing to name the atrociousness of life and the ways that the world breaks your heart, like, really willing to hold that, not afraid of it at all. And and also, it was such a goofball congregation. They were hilarious, and we would just burst out laughing during worship, when things would happen. And, I mean, there was an effervescence to it
Yeah.
that I
Yeah.
don't often experience those kind of extremes in spiritual communities, or in churches. But I think that if the willingness to be in the pit, it excavates something inside of us that joy actually fills more deeply. And also, I think when people haven't been in the pit, when they haven't experienced the depths, they're almost never funny.
No, I don't. I saw a stand-up comic talk about this the other day, and he said, "It's pretty hard to be funny in a private jet." And I thought that was, like, sometimes it's sometimes it's the friction, sometimes it's the, like, at least to me, it's the tragicomedy of it all, unless
Yeah,
you're in a totally insane situation that you would never would have chosen. You don't
right.
feel that light, hysterical, "Oh my gosh,
Yeah, yeah.
what this life, this comedy." And I think the other bit that I think it does to us is it's trying to make us more spiritually flexible than I think we want to be.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I don't wanna be very spiritually flexible. I'd like to do spirituality at a defined time on the weekend and then, like, mostly be left alone by God for the rest of the week to have my
Ideally.
I mean, if you're listening. And and I think that if I had not been so unlucky in my life, I would never have kind of found this side door into knowing that I needed more of those top notes from God, like more joy, more expansiveness, and also just like like one of the little parts of joy that we don't, I think, give enough credit to as a spiritual gift is delight. Like things that just like undo us, but maybe only us. Like
Mhm,
maybe not our
mhm.
neighbor. I don't know anyone else who, like me, loves world's largest objects. But is that maybe my favorite hobby? Yes, it is.
Yes, yes, yes.
It
Yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah. Um, sometimes people have asked me, they're like, "Hey, could you come and do a talk about humor?" And I'm like, "Absolutely not." Because you can't talk about it. It's not funny. It's not funny to talk about humor, It's like,
Yeah.
trying to have a conversation with somebody while you're doing their autopsy. You know what I mean? You can't do it.
That's so funny. Yes, I totally agree. I totally agree. And it's finding it's like you have to take the terrible story first and then find the other layer. I've been trying to learn to do that. I've been taking improv classes for the first time, and it's with people who this is honestly, I think this is the only reason why I think it's so great is it's with people who have incredibly serious and depressing jobs, and they come in, like, with pretty enormous, like, policy issue problems.
Sure.
I mean, like, this is what happened in the Supreme Court recently, just, like,
Right,
really
right.
serious problems, and I think we've tried this new format where we'll tell a really serious and, like, horrible thing that happened this week, and then that becomes the script that we mess around with, and retelling it over and, like, ornamenting it, finding funny, like, new scenarios. Um, I don't think I would know just how funny life is unless you took something dramatic and impenetrably bad.
You and I have had a lot of very dark humor conversations over the years, and, I, I yesterday on the phone, I was telling you they part of my breast reconstruction was called fat grafting, and I'm gonna tell everyone that story, and, they take fat from one part of your body, and then they put it around the implant so it resembles a human breast, and, I when the doctor came in pre-op, she goes, "I just wanna explain the procedure again," and I said, "Yeah, when I tell people what I had like 4 procedures, and that was like one of them that day. And when I tell people what I had, they're like, "Oh, I'll be a donor for you," you know? And they're like, "You could take some from me." And I'm like, "Look, I know where my fat comes from Kerrygold butter and like artisan pastries. Okay. I don't need your nacho cheese Dorito fat. I don't know where your Chick-fil-A fat came from. No, no, no. Mine, I know comes from like really good stuff." And, and like, how can you not? I mean, like you would we not perish if we didn't have the ability to
Yeah.
like see how absurd this life is and to
Yeah.
have that reaction to it? I mean, you've you've said some pretty funny things to me over the years about some pretty horrifying shit.
I I think that because I do find that, I mean, it's just like it's the range that we don't expect, I think, in our lives. I think we're all and this is part of, I think, why our happiness culture is so misleading. It's
Yeah,
trying to tell us over and over again that we should just be pH 7, that we should just be walking a steady road, that we should have, I think, what's called emotional self-management all the time, and that
yeah,
these are like and then, and then we'll have a great time with our friends on a Friday
yeah,
night.
yeah.
Rooftop drinks. But then the rest of it, we should never be hitting these, like, abysmal sub-basement after sub-basement after trapdoor, and I think once you know that there is absolutely nothing wrong with you because you keep hitting the basement and then the floor under that, and that even down there, weirdly, you won't even always have to climb up to have moments of temporary wholeness, which is what joy is, like,
Yeah,
temporary wholeness. I think it will make us feel a lot like we have more access to, like, the comedy of it when we know, like, we're made for this, the fullness, and we are also capable of having new parts dug out of us so that we have more and more capacity for more.
and also, like, in a culture that has a product to sell you for every single thing, they create stuff that you're doing wrong. Like, we were just talking about that book about breath that was like a book telling people they're breathing wrong.
Reading wrong.
And now there's a big book like you're pooping wrong. Anyway, like, when we're told constantly that there's something wrong and here's a product you can fix it, and there's this optimization of every single thing. What happens is we think if we don't feel good, if we feel lousy, if we're experiencing pain, it means something's wrong with us.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean something's wrong with us 9 times out of 10. It means there's something human about us. And the fact that we can pathologize the experience of being human is really disturbing to me. And like that's just a human thing. And when after my mastectomy, I was in OT for a long time, and I love my occupational therapist. She was amazing, and she would be doing some work on me, and I'd tense up, and she'd lay her hand on me, and she'd say, "Nadia, I need you to tell your brain that you're safe, and that the pain you are experiencing is not tissue damage. The pain you're experiencing is part of healing.
Mm,
So just tell your brain that." And it was amazing. And I'm like, sometimes the pain we're experiencing, we think it's damage. Something's wrong with us because we
good.
feel pain. And actually, it's part of you're already in it. You're already in the healing.
That's so good. I
Yeah.
really like that
Yeah.
because I think every time, I mean, I think my first I imagine every personality type has, like, reflexive, terrible stories we tell about the pain, and for me as, like, a shame-based personality, I immediately think, not just there's something wrong, but, like, I am wrong. Like, there's something wrong there's something bad about me right now,
Yeah.
and it could be even just I mean, sometimes it's when things are really going off the rails, or sometimes it's when I'm about to have a lovely experience that I just almost can't let myself have. I think it's very, very tempting to try to, like, restrict our motion and to keep ourselves in that middle space that feels,
Yeah.
I don't know, boring, I guess.
Well, there is something wrong with you. It's just usually not what you suspect. So that's my inspirational thought that I'm gonna leave everyone with,
Yeah,
'cause it's
yeah,
been
it's
15
roast you. I love that so much, and I totally agree with you. There is actually something wrong with you. It's probably not the thing you expect. Oh, I adore you. I will think about that, the next family reunion I have when I'm blaming others.
All right, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us, and thank you, Kate. I love you.
Oh, hon, you're a dream. So good to see you. Good to see you,
All right.
everyone. You take
Bye,
care.
everyone. Bye.
Bye.